What's up, guys? Welcome back. Today's video is going to be about Agentic AI. What is it? What can it do? How is it different than our current AI, those LLMs? How is it different than our workflow automations that integrate to AI? And what is so cool about it? And so that's what we're going to cover today. And if you're new to the channel, welcome. All we talk about is AI, automations, and workflows, and essentially leveraging that to save you time and hopefully also make you money. That's all we do here. And so if you're at all interested in that, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. And before we hop into it, would super appreciate liking that like button. Excuse me, my nose is fucking itchy. Liking that like button, it really helps me a lot. And if you like this content, if you want to see more of it, it'll help you get more of it. Not just from me, but probably from other dudes that are, cool and good at the stuff also. So let's hop into it. What is Agentic AI? There's 4 key factors to Agentic AI, and I'm really simplifying this. So it is going to be high level today. In our next videos, we're going to be going into the different types of Agentic AI, playing around with each of them so you guys can see what's going on with each of them and make your decision of which one you like best. And I have my opinion, and I'll tell you at the end of the video of which Agentic AI I think is the best and is going to be the best in the future and the one that you're going to want to learn. But you guys can make your own decisions around that as well. So what is Agentic AI? One, it has memory. And so you may think, LLMs have memory. And yes, they do. But this is a different kind of memory. This can store and recall information to a degree that is unlike anything that's paralleled in other large language models. And it can use that to change the tools that it designs itself. And so it's self-adaptive and it's learning from its mistakes, unlike potentially large language models, which may not always do that. And so you can use these external tools, code, and APIs and integrate them in this Agentic AI. And you might be thinking right now, hey, Jake, that's not too much different than, these workflows you've been making with us. And you're right, but I'll get into how it is different later. Planning and reasoning. So it has a whole nother level of planning and reasoning built into it. And all of this is curated by the autonomy of these Agentic AIs. And that is the key word here, autonomy, because it uses the self-learning feature autonomously to integrate all of these and improve them. And it's able to learn from the mistakes it makes. And so every mistake it makes, it gets a little bit better. And maybe sometimes it gets a little bit worse, but it's a net positive effect, right? So it learns, it messes up, it fixes it, it messes up again, it fixes it, and it goes through that loop until it's going to get the result that you want. And every time it makes a mistake, it should be getting better, at least over a large data set of numbers, right? Like I said, you may have a small downturn before it's like a stock market, you know what I mean? It goes up, 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 you get a pullback, and then it keeps going up. It's kind of like that. So let's check out a quick Venn diagram of the 3 areas that people have been talking about recently. So we have our workflow automations. That's what we're all about here, right? And we use our large language model as our AI inside of our workflow automations to create more leverage. Because if you think about it like this, workflow automations, let's say, are, a 10x leverage. Large language models, the AI, is a 10x leverage. And so we leverage these together. What is that? Is that 1,000x leverage? Did I do that right? Or is that 100x? I don't know. But nonetheless, those are the big players that people have been mainly using right now. And the newer player that really wasn't applicable until recently is the Agentic AI, just because it wasn't there, but we're getting dang close, guys. We're getting close. And right now we're at a point where we're seeing the Agentic AI kind of reach that threshold of being able to actually be usable in serious large enterprise use cases, because you need that accuracy in those use cases. So talking about what each one does, and like I said, this is extremely simplified and not 100% accurate, because some of these things you might be saying, hey, Jake, yeah, there's some things missing from each of these, or hey, this isn't a hard and fast rule, but we're just kind of going with generalizations here just because it's going to make it a bit simpler so we can be so we're not digging too much into the weeds and getting confused here. So starting off with workflow automations. One, it's rule-based, it's deterministic, and it's event-driven. So of course, with these workflows, we kind of just set a standard of rules. We determine the results we want from those rules, and then we make those rules happen on specific events. And so that's what the workflow does. And then the large language models, it can generate text and it's predictive, right? And so this is going to be like the writing the emails, and kind of what the large language model do is they're prediction engines. They're looking at what is the most likely next word in a sequence based on the information we have. And so they use the reasoning behind the scenes with their neural net or whatever the hell it's called to make those predictive assumptions. But there isn't necessarily a persistent memory. I know you're saying, hey, Jake, you can, do some like vector stores or, all that stuff to store some memory. And yes, you can do that, but it's not going to be to the same level as the agentics, right? And so what do these two have in common since we just talked about them? Can be combined, right? That's what we do here. We combine workflow automations and LLMs, AI, no long-term memory. So the more you work inside of an AI, the less it's going to recall the information from prior. And so the working memory is not always so good with these large language models. We've all experienced it. We've all been talking to ChatGPT, and it keeps telling us things that we've already discussed. And we're like, hey, dude, no, stop revisiting this topic. And then what do you know, 4 or 5 prompts later, it revisits again because it forgets. Now back down to agentic AI. So the big factor here, autonomous, right? That autonomy of the agentic AI is what makes it different. And then it can do planning. Did this say toll? I used AI to make this. It wrote toll. Too funny. Tool use, long-term memory over a large sequence of events, self-correcting, adaptive decision making. And so what that means for agentic AI is you can basically use it to program sets of code that are going to offload some of the burden that the AI has to quarterback itself. And when you do that, you do, the IDE is what it's called, inside of like a model, like a Cursor or something like that, or, Google's anti-gravity. And you use it to basically code different blocks, and those codes are going to take some of the load off the actual AI that's doing the quarterbacking of whatever kind of workflow or agent you're building. And that way, it's not just trying to fix its own outputs, it's fixing the codes inside of its workflow that are doing specific tasks for you. And when you do something like that, it can systematize itself much better, because otherwise we've all seen it with the LLMs. They get confused of what you're asking, and they forget how you asked it to not do X, Y, and Z because you asked it to do A, B, and C. And now it's giving you 1, 2, 3. I feel like I'm singing a song here. And so Agentic is going to be much better at that because it has that long-term memory. It has that built-in database that you're going to structure your entire agent, your entire workflow around. And that every time that it fails you, it's going to look at it back at itself, using its autonomy, using its self-correction, its long-term memory to say, hey, what did I mess up here? How can I make this better? And it's going to change those code bases in each specific code that you have in there, or tool, or whatever nomenclature you want to attach to it. It doesn't really matter. We're talking about semantics here, because what really matters is the results, is the end output. But what does agentic AI have in common with these two things? It has advanced reasoning, right? LLMs are amazing, right? They're awesome. We can figure out all kinds of crazy stuff with LLMs that we would never know in 1,000 years trying to figure out by ourselves. And also can do tool use. So it can do two of the most important things that LLMs do. It can do, and it can do text generation, but it can actually do all of this as well. But I think, we're just trying to make this simple. And then it can perform real world actions. And of course, when we pair the workflow automation with the LLM, we can perform the real world actions via that as well. And so we're almost trying to make an agentic agent with workflow automation. And workflow automation and LLMs definitely still have their place. They're not going to be totally replaced with agentic AI, at least not yet. But performing the real world actions it's like having an AI employee is what agentic is. And so this guy is going to be adaptive. He's going to learn. I say he, I probably shouldn't, I probably shouldn't attach a gender to a machine. So excuse me if I offended anyone for that. But this machine, whatever you want to call this beast, it's more like an employee. It's more like a reasoning, living, breathing thing opposed to just, a linear model of sorts. And that's where the beauty of agentics comes in. And now you're probably asking, okay, what kind of agentics are there? So there's a bunch of different kinds, and I've, again, way oversimplified this. And so some of you guys may be expert in this field and say, hey, Jake, you're missing XYZ, or this is not narrowed down to the point where it should be. That's not the point of this video. The point of this video is just general education for people who don't really know anything about it, so they can at least try and group it in their mind and trying to start that understanding of these agentic AIs. So use cases for agentic AIs and kind of types as well. So one is Swarm. Swarm is going to be multi-agent. It's going to be collaborative, simultaneous, complex problem-solving, decision-making. So think of a swarm just exactly, like the Zerg from StarCraft. You have all of these creatures all working toward a goal all at the same time. Each of them is, their own little worker bee that has its own job, and so it's not upon one agent to do the entirety job for the hive, right? For the entire collaborative effort. Each agent has its own job. It's kind of like how all the employees in a business, they have their job to solve a specific issue or to come together to complete a specific task. And so that's what the swarm does. A couple of examples of this is OpenAI has the agent swarm, which I've never used, and I probably will never use it. But, some people say that it can be good, but the problem is that it doesn't have just an easy user interface. You have to use like the APIs and do all this stuff around it that I don't really want to get into to make this video short. And then you have Crew AI, which is a bit more user-friendly from my understanding. And it is the leading, according to them, right, take it with a grain of salt, multi-agent platform. And apparently they have 500 million agents running and using Crew AI right now. So that's going to be all of these different apps working together for one collaborative goal. Kind of like our workflows, right? Kind of like how we all have all these different nodes strung together for one goal. It's kind of similar to that. And then we have our IDE, which is going to be an integrative development environment. So a lot of you guys probably aren't super familiar with this. That's going to be like VS Studios, it's going to be Cursor, and it's going to be anti-gravity. And an IDE is going to be a lot of coding based. And so you basically build an agent inside of this IDE platform that's going to be able to run these codes all together for a singular purpose. And each code is kind of built in its different little, almost like an ident, like a different little node, right? And so each code has its own little job. And so the agent can look at each code in isolation and fix it specifically for the singular job it needs to do. And so in the mind of the AI, it's a lot easier to segment what it needs to do in each code. And it's much less likely to get those kind of errors where it's rewriting code the wrong way, where it's putting it to the wrong tasks or trying to do everything all at once, all at the same time. So it can systematize itself a lot better. And it can do the code reviews, it can do debugging. And IDE, in my opinion, before I don't want to put the what's the term, the carrot before the horse? I don't think that's it. I don't want to get ahead of myself here with this IDE, but I think this is going to be where it's at, right? And maybe a combination of these two, where you're combining a swarm with IDE to make one autonomous agent that's going to be able to complete every task unanimously, simultaneously, and learn from its mistakes all at the same time. I think that's where it's really going to be at. And then we have web tasks, which web tasks, right? It's exactly what it sounds like. That's like Perplexity, right? Browser automation, data extraction, form filling. It's basically just being able to have the agent automate online activities for you. So that's almost like, if you've seen the new OpenAI agent, that's what they do. You give them access to all your stuff, and they can go in and they can place Amazon orders for you. Enterprise automation. So this is going to be like Microsoft's, and like that other one that's Sana, I think it's called. And those are going to be enterprise automations that they're very strict in the rules. They're not super flexible, but they're doing customer support, sales processing, scheduling, document processing, and they're a lot more linear, because when you're talking enterprise, you need it to be extremely accurate. And that's another type of agentic AI. And you kind of just build a database around that agentic AI. And then you have your research agent, which is information gathering, right? Market analysis and report generating. And these three are, I don't want to say almost less agentic than the first two, but they don't necessarily need to be agentic, in my opinion, although agentic, AI can do these tasks, right? This one, may be closer to agentic, in some cases, but a lot of these and these three can be more automation LLM based, where these two are much closer to true agentic and, really in the direction of what's going to be the general AI. So just to go over a few other agentics, so we have the Agentic SDK. These are going to be the top ones that if you guys want to try something out, OpenAI Agent Swarm. Crew AI is, another multi-agent. Agentic SDK is going to be the OpenAI agent. And then we have LangChain. LangChain is a big player in the field. And their whole thing is control. I haven't used them much. Apparently they're great, but, worth a try, I suppose. Devin is the AI software engineer. So this guy is going to help you develop software, and it's going to be that IDE type of platform, right? Kind of like Cursor or something like that, where you can build it inside one of those IDEs. And then really what we're waiting for is, hey, Jake, probably what is your favorite, right? What do you think is going to be the leader here? And I think it's going to be Google anti-gravity. When we think about how AI has been evolving, who's been the leader in the field, it's been OpenAI, but that's changing, guys. Google has deep, deep pockets. They're on top of it. They have tentacles in every category of AI, and they're not slowing down. They're speeding up. And unlike OpenAI, they can fund themselves all day, every day, start to finish. They've got some of the deepest pockets in the history of the world. And I think that with those deep pockets, with the people, the developers, with what they have access to at Google, I really think that they're going to be the first people to make the general AI. And I think they're going to be the leaders in the AI game. And I think they're going to take a lot of people out of space. I think they might even take down OpenAI. I think they're just going to get so much better. And I think they're just evolving quicker. If you look at where it started, they weren't paying too much attention to it because, AI has really been around for decades. It's only hit the public eye, and really been something that we can utilize with any kind of effectiveness in the past few years. But it's been around for decades. And so, nonetheless, Google is where it's at, I think. I know I'm reiterating myself, and I'm really, really talking highly of Google here. So Google guys, send me some money. Come on. I'm preaching for you here. But check out Google Anti-Gravity. I'm going to make a video on it, and I'll just give you a sneak peek of what it looks like inside of the Google Anti-Gravity. workspace, this is it, right? This is a completely bare bones one. I don't have anything in here yet. I don't have any agents, nothing, no repositories. And so in our next videos, let me start to update. In our next videos, I'm going to be building something for you guys and just show you how it works. And we're just going to play around with it, right? And just see some of the tasks that it can complete, and then show you how it can evolve over time. But nonetheless, that's all I got for you today, guys. Just a quick recap, summarization of all these different agentics, and what it means, because I know a lot of us are confused by this. And trust me, I wouldn't consider myself an expert on this. So I'm still learning just like you guys. I just wanted to bring what I've discovered about this and, what I understand about it so far. And please, if there's anything that I might have missed, there's any errors or, things that are a little bit inaccurate that I'm preaching about here because of a misunderstanding I have, let me know. I love to learn. It's my favorite thing. I'm here to help everyone else learn as well. And with that, if you guys like this video, please drop a like, drop a comment below if you have any things else you want to see, or like I said, any of those comments about the video today. But nonetheless, it's been a bit of a ramble video. It's been a bit of an ADHD video. I know I'm being kind of rambling, but I hope you guys enjoyed it nonetheless. And I'll see you in the next one.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.